Hi, this is Dr. Dan the Cyberman. Quick disclaimer before we get started. The information within and the research conducted for this presentation is my own. It does not necessarily represent the information or the opinions of any company or organization that I have worked for or am currently working with. The information should be used for general education purposes only and not considered a solution or guarantee of any sort should you choose to implement such suggestions. Cybersecurity is an ever-changing landscape, and this material may become obsolete or out of date at some point. Oh yeah, and remember, my videos have very limited editing, so you never know what's going to pop up behind me. Hi there, it's Dr. Dan the Cyberman. Today I want to talk about something that is near and dear to my heart, and it's about protecting you and your family online. So today's presentation, as opposed to my normal presentations where I like to talk about different areas of cybersecurity, this is going to be more of a public service announcement, public service presentation for you and your family. So feel free to grab your family or rewatch this and have your family watch this as well. We actually just had a situation within my community, within just a few miles of here, where a girl had met a guy online, a young girl, teenager girl, had met a guy online in another state. He came down here, picked her up, took her away to another state. Luckily, they found her. She's home, she's safe, and he's in jail. So we've got to be very careful about what we say, what we do, and how we're interacting with people online. So this here really is to help with that, right? Um, so why are we here? As adults, we're considered digital nomads. You guys may have heard that term before. We've slowly migrated using technology. So some of the stuff that we've picked up that we do, we either had um, the forethought because of some of the situations we may have run into before we even got into technology, um, to be very cautious on what we say and what we do. Or we may have just the opposite. We may trust people so much, just like we would if we were shaking their hand, that we would tell them more than we should. Our kids, however, they're digital natives, right? So they've had technology in their hands basically since they were born. I got a lot of friends that have young kids, and pretty much since the day they were born, they're able to do something on technology or watch their videos or what have you, right? So they've grown up with technology. They're considered digital natives. Um, but sometimes, we know what we should do. We just need a little reminding, right? We need a little reminding from time to time, whether that's us as adults or whether that's the young kids. Sometimes, though, we just have no clue what to do. We do what we think is right, and or we do what we would do if we were talking to the person at the grocery store or at a restaurant or whatever. Especially as we meet people online and we become friends with them, or we spend a little bit of extra time with them. We see them on a game, or whatever, right? Um, and then we have this God-given trusting nature that some folks will take advantage of. So, it's just like holding the door open for somebody, right? They'll take advantage of things like that. So, we got to be very, very careful. And we don't want to hold that door open on too much of our personal information. So, here's some scary statistics I want to talk about. 85% of the people posting puppy photos are trying to scam you. This is according to a survey that had been done by Zipto. Um, Human error accounts for about 95% of all data breaches. And these are data breaches not only for companies, but also for your personal. Consider those data breaches as well, right? 96% of threat actors use spear phishing to collect information. Do you remember what we talked about in one of my other sessions? We talked about spear phishing. Spear phishing is where they send you an email directly at you. So they're coming right after you. They're not sending it out to a broad audience. They're coming right after you. Spear phishing actually can be for you or for a group of people like you, that have like-minded activities and things like that, maybe all on a game together or all on a Pinterest group together or something like that, that threat actor is going after you specifically. Where regular phishing is just they cast a net, right? They just can't send that email out and they try to get anybody that they can. They don't really care what they get as long as they get somebody. So cyber crimes have increased by 300% since COVID. 300%. 27% of children 7 to 17 have encountered harmful content online. Actually, I think this is much higher because this is with the ones that actually admit to it. I think this is much higher. It probably is double that at least, um, because if they're on YouTube or if they're on any of these different sites, a lot of times on the side, right? They show different ads or different new or other videos and stuff like that. It's very easy for them to click on one of those. 1 in 25 youth received online sexual solicitation in which the solicitor tried to make offline contact. 1 in 25. About 75% of children are willing to share personal information online in exchange for goods or services. Now, let me just tell you this. This is funny. So you know what I do, right? You guys see what I do. I do this. I do cybersecurity stuff every day. I do trainings all the time. My own children, so they have heard my presentations. They actually help me with some of my presentations. I've heard my own children start to provide personal information while they're online with somebody. And I've known that they're on a game as opposed to just talking with their friend. So we do it because it's part of our nature, right? So 43% of US families experienced some sort of cybercrime in 2020. So 4 years later, I'm sure it's much higher. 43%. Over 60% of online sexual abuse cases have involved a perpetrator who met the victim on social media. Now, am I saying this to try to scare you? No, and yes. I want you and I want folks to understand that while this stuff is really, really scary, it's just a matter of us being smart. I want to make sure that you guys understand that some of this stuff that you think that you're being nice or think that you're being helpful, it actually can be very, very harmful. So what in the world can I do about all this, right? Well, first of all, consider using a password. Whoa, skipped over there. Sorry. What can I do? Consider using a password manager. First of all, use strong passwords. Don't reuse passwords. Why do I say that? You're like, Dan, you were talking about people talking to other people online. Well, spear phishing tries to get into. They'll try to get into using you to get additional information, to get into your systems, to get into your bank accounts, to get into your credit cards, to get into all of that fun stuff. Use multi-factor authentication. Multi-factor authentication is allowed in a lot of apps, especially when you're talking about like banking apps and stuff like that. I know a lot of us, it's kind of a pain. I have to do it for work. I have to do it for other things, but it's kind of a pain because you got to either use your phone for something else, use some other kind of a thing. It's kind of a pain sometimes, but it's very, very good. Google has one, Microsoft has one. There's a bunch of different ones out there. If you can use them for a site, please go ahead and click on it. It takes an extra couple seconds. It's a pain, but it will save you in the end. Make sure you're adding antivirus. Most of these things will just protect from viruses and stuff like that. But make sure that you're really doing that. Keep your software up to date, your phones, your tablets, and all of that stuff. Okay, now that we've got to do all that anyway. That's kind of general housekeeping. We should be doing that all the time anyway. Here's where the nuts and bolts are. Be aware. Understand. You are always a target. You are always a target. Be aware. Someone somewhere is trying to get your personal information. So you're online, you're doing this or that. Understand, they are going to come after you. Somebody. May not be the person directly that you're talking to at that time, but it will be somebody. Okay? Um, Understand that if it sounds too good to be true, then it probably is. So don't click that link. Don't make that contact. Um, I had a phone call. So my nieces and nephews, they listen to me as well. They hear me talk about these different things. I had a phone call a couple months back. It's probably been a year back now. It was my nephew. He calls me. He's like, "Hey, Uncle Dan, there's this guy in your old hometown that is selling a boat." And he's like, I think he might be a scammer because it's a really, really good price for a boat. And I looked him up, he said, and I see that you're friends with somebody that he knows. I'm like, oh, okay. All right. I'll go dig into it. Luckily for him, it wasn't a scam. They had been going through some hard times and need to get rid of his boat. So but the good thing is, like, that this kind of information is getting out. And so we're now able to start being careful about the links that we click, the people that we contact, all of that stuff. So that's a good news story, right? Avoid emails from strangers, or at least don't open up the attachments or the links. I see these emails come in all the time. I mean, I get hundreds and hundreds of emails a day. I actually have several email accounts, right? But I get hundreds of emails a day. Half of them are crap. Half of them are just junk. And they're trying to get me to do something. They're trying to get me to click something. So wipe those things out. If you don't know who the sender is, don't click on it. Don't click the link. Now, I'm going to be honest. I make mistakes too. Actually, at the company I'm working at right now, I accidentally clicked on a link because I was actually looking to gain access to something, and it just so happened they were doing a phishing test, and it was with the same thing. I was trying to get access to a SharePoint site. They did a phishing test that was for a SharePoint site. I didn't look at the actual name. I didn't look at the actual email, all of that fun stuff. I just assumed that it was the one that I had just requested access for within hours. And so I clicked on the link, and guess what? Now I get my hand slapped because, like I said, us good guys do bad things too, right? So just be careful on the links that you click. When you're using public Wi-Fi, use it in moderation. Be very careful what you're doing on public Wi-Fi. Don't do bank stuff. Don't allow others. So make sure that you have settings and stuff like that so that others cannot connect to you when you're on public Wi-Fi. There's settings that you can go into your computer to make sure that people cannot connect to you. They cannot see you sometimes. So make sure that you kind of go incognito. You don't want people getting onto your machines, especially at things like airports. I mean, think about it. There's a lot of people in that airport. You don't know half of them if they're good or bad. They could be scammers. They could be true hackers. Hackers do travel too, right? So be very, very careful when you're on public Wi-Fi. One thing that I want to talk about real quick, and I only have 30 minutes typically to do these presentations, so I'm going to be kind of quick about this. But remember, nothing is temporary online. Now, you may say, "Oh, Dan, but Snapchat." I clicked the snap, or take the picture of myself, and Joe reads it, Bob reads it, whoever reads it, and it goes away. They can't get back to it. Well, if you read the small print, go to Snapchat's website, go to some of these other groups' website. They are required by law to hold on to some of this stuff, or hold on to their stuff for a certain period of time. So yes, it is stored. The other thing that you have to remember is that if I see something, you send something to me and I like it, guess what? I can click the little buttons or whatever and take a screenshot of it. That doesn't ever go away, potentially. And not only that, I can send it to whoever I want, and you don't even know it. And that actually has happened a lot. It actually happened with at one of my daughters at their school years ago, um, where somebody took a picture from a picture that somebody sent them, which was probably a little R-rated, let's say, and they forwarded it to their friends. And so what ended up happening is there's a couple things that happened out of this. First of all, this person was embarrassed. The person that they took the picture of, right? They were embarrassed throughout the whole school, or at least that social group, right? But the other thing is, let's just say the people were underage, and they got in some legal trouble. Now, understand that with all of these things that are going on, if you get arrested or you get charged because you have a picture of an underage person without clothes on, that's considered child pornography. You are housing child pornography. If you forward it, you are now distributing child pornography. And yes, you as a young child or a young kid, middle school, high school, whatever, could now have to be called a sexual predator and have to do the stuff that has that you have to do online and all of that stuff. And so anytime that you move somewhere, they have to know that you live there and all of that stuff. So you can be considered a sexual predator at that point by law. Something just happened in one of the courts. There was a deep fake that was done with a child's head on an adult's body, doing activities that the child would not do. The kid that did it, that created the deep fake, is now he's now going to jail. The judge found him guilty. He's going to juvenile jail, and he now has to be a registered sex offender. I think this was middle school, high school. Think about that. That's really scary. But I don't disagree with it. So be careful. The other thing is, do not post where you are and when you're going to be there. You're on vacation. Talk about it after you get back. I do see a lot of people doing that now. And by the way, those of you, my cousins, my friends that are doing that, well done, right? They say, "Oh, we had a great time in St. Kitts. We had a great time in Jamaica." Talk about it afterwards. You don't need to talk about it while you're there. People don't need to know that. They don't need to know that you're on. Because what does that do? That says, "Hey, my house is free. Go ahead. Go ahead. Grab something." The other thing is, don't also post that, "Hey, I'm going to Johnny's baseball game at such and such park on Saturday." Well, first of all, I know that you're going to be at Johnny's game. I know I'm going to be able to find you. I'm going to be able to find Johnny. And also be careful about like people doing pictures like, "Oh, my son just got his driver's license." Chick. So could potentially see the driver's license place in the back, and it may say the name of it or whatever to be able to find where you live. Um, they may not cover up some of the stuff on the driver's license. Be very very careful about stuff like that. There's no need to post those kind of things. Be very careful about stuff like that. Do not post or send provocative pictures. That pretty much goes without saying, but guess what? A lot of people do it. Use specific cards when you're online purchasing. Okay, so a lot of our kids play games. My kids do. My kids, when they were really little, they used to like that Club Penguin or something like that, right? They used to have all these different games that they played, and they wanted to buy the little trinkets that were inside of the thing. Okay, so for birthdays, we'd say, "Hey, get them the little Google gift cards, or get them a gift card from Apple Play Store or wherever, right? Make sure that you're using gift cards or something like that, or use a credit card, one specific credit card. Hopefully, the credit card has low balance or low rate on it and all of that stuff. But credit cards will protect you a little bit more online than your debit card. You don't want everything coming out of your bank account. If somebody charges $500 on your credit card, the credit card companies, most of them, will give you your money back and all of that stuff. So use a very specific card so you can kind of monitor that. Like I said, I use gift cards. I think that's probably the best way to do it. Then recharge that gift card if you need to. That way, if it does get stolen, the only thing that's gone is the few bucks that are on the gift card. Back up your information. Now, again, this is kind of that stuff that we've been talking about for years and years and years, right? Back up your information, because if you get caught with ransomware or anything like that, you may need to reinstall. You may need to bring your files back up. You may lose a lot of different stuff if you don't do continuous backups. We've been talking about this for decades, so make sure that you're doing that. And then educate your family. Let them watch this video, or let them watch other videos. There's actual kids videos that are out there. Feel free to search those things. I'll think of some of the things maybe as we go along to talk to you about and tell you where to go to have your kids watch some of the videos. They actually have cartoons out there for some of this stuff. So the 3 C's, there's something that many different sites have started to use. I actually think I'm adding. I actually am adding another C that I don't have up here yet. But the 3 C's. The 3 C's are content. If you come across content that's inappropriate, stay calm, tell someone. See something, say something. Right? You've heard that before. See something, say something. If something doesn't look right, if you're on your school computer or your work computer, something doesn't look right, tell your boss, tell the IT department, tell your teacher, tell whoever it is, right? Because that's the kind of stuff that we need to make sure that we're getting away from people. If you're at home, kids, if you're at home and you see something that you shouldn't be seeing, tell your parents. They can help you get rid of that stuff. Help you on to another site. Do not accept random friend requests or follows on social media or online games. Be very careful about that stuff. If you do, be very careful. Don't give them information. Sometimes, like if I'm playing in games or something like that myself, I see a really good player, like, hey, I want that person on my team. So I will friend them in the game and such, but I don't have any contact with them other than that. I don't tell them my name. I give them they know my name from inside the game. That's where they know. That's all they know. Okay. Conduct. Simply put, behave yourself online. That I was always told by there was a guy that I used to work with, and he used to tell everybody, if you wouldn't do it in front of your grandma, don't do it online. So if you wouldn't do it in front of your grandma or your preacher or your grandpa, then don't do it online. Okay? Watch for illegal activities, including downloading of free music and videos. A lot of those things you got to be very careful of too, because a lot of times they have bad stuff behind it. The other C that I said I was going to add is check. Okay? Check yourself online. Run a check on your handles or your user IDs. So go and just Google yourself, your user IDs, your email addresses, your name, your phone numbers, and stuff like that. See what comes up. See who has information about you. Wouldn't it be scary if you went and did a search online and all of a sudden you found your own personal address on there, your home address? I had an old colleague that called me up one time and said, "Dan, I'm scared." She was a director. Actually, she was a vice president, I believe. She called me up and she's like, "Dan, I'm scared." And I'm like, "What? What's going on?" She said, "An employee that I had years ago who passed away, his wife wanted to get a hold of me. She said that she did a few Google searches and she was able to get a hold of my personal home phone number. She just did a couple Google searches and found it. She goes, I need to figure out like where am I at online? This is called your digital footprint. And so that's what you want to do. You want to go out and there are tools that you can use. There are services that you can use. Um, and all of that stuff. Be careful on some of that stuff, especially if it's free. It's probably not as good as you probably want it to be. You may have to pay a little bit to be able to get yourself away from some of that. Some of it you never will be able to get away from. Some of the tax stuff that's out there, things like that, you're not going to be able to get offline. But a lot of it you can, and so be very careful and try to clean yourself up as much as possible. All right. So next one. So let's start wrapping this stuff up. Okay. So protecting you and your family is a big task. It all starts with education and talking to each other. That's like everything, right? It's all about education and talking with each other. Remember, you and your data are always a target. Watch what you share online and where you share it at. Make online purchases using gift cards or specific credit cards, but never use debit cards. Also, be careful of sharing of photos that have information on it, and also where you are, when you're going to be there, and things of that sort. Be very careful about what you share online. Tell your kids, be very careful about what they share online. You don't want somebody showing up at little Johnny's softball game or baseball game on Saturday morning, and Johnny goes to get a drink from the snack shack, and Johnny doesn't come back. That happens. So be very careful about that, and be very careful about make sure that you tell Johnny. Don't share that stuff online. All right. And then lastly, I do have some references. I'll leave these up for a second. Do have some references. Oh, the kidshealth.org. That's a good one. There are the consumer FTC. You can go and just do some Google searches about protecting yourself online. And there's a bunch of different things on a bunch of the different sites and stuff like that. But definitely take a look at it. Do anything that you can to protect you and your kids. And thank you for attending today.